Welcome back to the Centered in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. In today's podcast episode, I get to interview Quartier Collective, which consists of owners Taryn and Martin, a couple who had this deep desire to travel and move their family abroad and think of life outside of the box. They facilitate really beautiful, curated family vacations as well as adult vacations, and opportunity to travel and explore the world and connect to your senses and connect to the land and connect to locals, connect to yourself and family members in such a beautiful way that's very different from going to an all-inclusive hotel resort in Mexico or checking TripAdvisor's top 10 things to see in the city. I was connected with this amazing couple through a mutual friend, Alessandra. If you're listening, big shout out. I wanted to bring them on the podcast to talk about how we can practice staying centered while traveling as a family, and even what it's like to raise kids while living abroad. I think it's so important as part of the recipe of how we practice staying centered in our lives is to have expanders of what's possible, to remind ourselves that we don't have to just go the autopilot path that we see all around us or that our family does, but that we instinctively and intuitively within ourselves all have innate wisdom of how we want to be designing our life, and that we can design a life we love, and that we don't have to just live a life based on default. And Taryn and Marty are just great examples of not only taking charge of their life and creating a lifestyle that fits their needs, fits their family's needs, but also giving these beautiful opportunities for other families and adults and individuals to connect to the beauty of the world, because traveling is one of our greatest teachers. I know you're going to leave this episode with so much inspiration and hopefully the travel itch to go somewhere amazing and to really live and enjoy life. Linked in the show notes, you can check out Quartier Collective and learn more about their upcoming trips. I welcome you to get cozy wherever you are, on a walk, driving, cooking in your kitchen, and let's get centered. Guys, welcome to the Centered in the City podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever people are listening. I want to begin by hearing, how do both of you as individuals stay centered?
Do we stay centered?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Practice staying
I think
centered.
Yeah, there we go.
practicing. We've been on the road nearly 7 years now, traveling full time. We've just recently found a home base in Mallorca, but being on the road means that your environment is constantly changing. And so I guess our ability to tap into different things, our spaces that we're living in, things that we have access to, that's always changing. So I think what we're doing to stay centered is always changing as well. It's always in flux. But I think probably my constant is, I would say, running. That's probably where I find my best clarity, alone time, and just finding that center for me is, putting on my running shoes and going out for a run. And that can happen almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah, anything we do has to be 100% mobile. Any pattern or any tool or anything needs to be able to be picked up and carried to the next place. So we decided really early on that one of those things that needed to be mobile in order for us to have centered experience in our day is our morning coffee. We love coffee quite a lot, and so we try to make it as difficult as possible to prepare and as many steps as we can, and kind of if there's a way to make it harder, we choose that way. So we travel with our own little hand grinder and a scale and an AeroPress, and we have this little kit. And then we'll usually have like between 1 and 3 bags of beans that we've collected from, the last great roasters we were near to. If we're going somewhere where that we may struggle to find the coffee we like, then we've got a lot more beans. And then every morning starts that way with like hand grinding coffee, and
which is a meditation
it is
in and of itself, depending on how many beans you're grinding.
Yeah, it's 400 revolutions of the hand grinder to make 2 cups of coffee for us. If we're doing a French press, it's 1100. So, but yeah, kind of like this ritual of knowing we still go to bed excited about the next morning's cup of coffee, which sounds a little crazy, but it is just this like one constant piece that we can rely on no matter where we are in the world, and no matter what's happening around us. All we need is some hot water, and we have our own little meditative zone. So I really actually feel like that's an important tool. Without that, I would be absolutely lost. I don't know about you, Taryn, but I would be just swimming, just drowning in the sea without that.
I love that reminder of just because those are part of our rituals, that they go with you wherever you are, that it doesn't necessarily, you don't need all of the things, just even your tools to take with you, or your running sneakers, or for somebody, maybe it's their yoga mat, or some sort of altar piece if somebody needs that in their practice, but something small that people can carry with them, because wherever we go, there we are, and there we are to come back to ourselves with whatever the practice is at hand. You mentioned you've been on the road for 7 years, and you just decided to put down roots. Before we talk about the traveling for the last 7 years, I'm curious, what was your inspiration for putting down roots, and specifically in Mallorca?
Yeah, that's a great question. We didn't start out with on our voyage with the idea of traveling for so long. We thought we had about 6 months worth of money, and we were like, well, maybe when we run out, we'll go back to Seattle. And then we just got further along. We're like, you know what, this is working. This is fun. Let's keep going. And then we hit a year, and that's kind of when a lot of people who do a long voyage, after 1 year, they wrap up and go home. It's kind of a nice round number. And we just kept going. We just liked it. And so it was kind of this idea that we would just keep going as long as it felt right. And I would say for the last couple of years, we've known that the time was coming when we needed to put down, at least to get like a home base that we could travel out of. I would be surprised if we ever hit a point where we're not traveling a lot, because we really love it, and it's our work and it's our life. And but it's really it's a different kind of travel when you're really carrying everything you have with you, and living your whole life all of the time out of new spaces, suitcases, and new environments. And so I would say, yeah, a couple of years ago, we started to say, well, let's keep our eye out for a place that we could call home, and started to kind of identify the features that would be compelling to us. And the truth is, the more we looked, the more we saw there's no perfect place that has everything that you want. But Mallorca ticked a lot of boxes, and feels like there are a lot of people like us here, who've done a couple of laps, and decided to put down some roots. I would say maybe the biggest motivator was Matilda, our eldest, reaching an age where quite naturally she's, I'd say, starting to build her own identity outside of her family, outside of her parents, and the connection with a peer group, it becomes more important at that time. And this age, actually, like 12 is kind of a age when 12, 13 is an age when a lot of families who've been traveling for a long time naturally run up into this natural barrier where their eldest is like, you know what, this has been okay, but I need something else now. So that, plus the requirement that we get a dog at some point in the near future, those were the biggies.
And what motivated you guys to just leave Seattle 7 years ago and start this adventure that was potentially going to last for 6 months. But it sounds like it was also who knew? Because also for people listening, okay, we know you have an eldest daughter, but you have 3 kids, if I have that
Yeah.
correctly. And to
Yeah.
travel with 3 kids, not just yourselves and have that flexibility and freedom, but it's like you're also responsible for your 3 kids and I'm assuming homeschooling them along the way or kind of flow there. So what inspired that original launch?
Yeah, I think well, to begin with, we both had traveled quite a lot before having kids, and that was something that was really important, I think, in shaping both of us as like young adults. It was something that we both found super enriching and just something that we wanted more of. I think there are people who feel like they are travelers at heart, maybe. Um, I know there are people in my family who don't really feel that way, and I've always felt that way. So I assume that there are people like Marty, meeting him, it was obvious that that was a shared passion for us. Um, Naturally, as you have kids and you sort of settle into career, these kinds of things, but especially having kids, travel becomes um, I think often less accessible. There are just so many more questions to answer. The logistics list could go on and on, so I think people have this feeling of being stuck. I know we certainly did. um, I was at home with the kids daydreaming all the time of travel and what our life could look like. Marty had really sunk into work. He was working, was a partner in some restaurants in Seattle. So that's a very demanding job that requires a lot of time. He always says like the more you're there, the better it runs, which is not great for vacations and travel kind of scenario. So I think really just this feeling of, yeah, feeling um, a bit stuck in a way. And like this idea of travel just felt further and further away. And when are we going to be? We don't want to wait until we're like retired to be able to do this. And it's something we really want to share with our kids. So every time we were able to go on vacation, when we managed to take, 10 days or maybe up to 2 weeks. I'm not even sure if we did that. Like we were just like, oh, we want more of this, and that feeling was quite strong and it just continued to grow. So then, yeah, we just found ourselves like daydreaming together in the evenings once the kids went to bed. Like, what could we do? What could we create that allowed us to travel? And so basically, we just got this huge cork board that we put up and we started pinning ideas. It was kind of a mood board, thinking about travel concepts that we could create around families, so basically scratching our own itch. And there was a couple of years of just going down that road of daydreaming and thinking up ideas, before there was sort of a natural breaking point and we were like, okay, are we actually going to do this? Are we going to put this thing into action and try something out? And that's basically how we got to that point where we're like, okay, this is the moment.
Yeah, what supported you taking that leap? Because that's a big, from ideation to like bags packed or house rented or sold or, lease broke, whatever the situation is, things packed away in storage. Like that's a big leap. And yeah, what supported you having the courage to do that?
Well, I would say we kind of been preparing for it for a while,
Well,
doing some
mentally,
research trips and
yeah.
mentally kind of preparing. But then the timeline, we had a moment where I kind of got fired from my own job with my company. I kind of fired myself. I hired a guy who, when I hired him, I was like, oh crap, this is like this guy should own this company. And he does now, which is amazing. And he's a good friend. But basically, I kind of made myself obsolete in this company. And I wasn't amazing at pieces of it anyway. Like I was good at parts of it, but then making those restaurants run a little better every day, day after day, I just wanted to be in Mexico or in Morocco or something else. And so my partners knew that, and they were like, hey, you gotta shit or get off the pot. This is are you here or are you not here? And then they were like, okay, I think that this is a
the
good,
moment.
this is the
Yeah.
moment, this is the
Yeah.
time. So I mean, that was incredibly stressful because we didn't have a big pile of cash or like a big runway to get our travels off the ground. All we did was take to kind of cash in, paid our debts in town, packed up. We sold nearly everything we had, put a few things in storage at my brother's, and then got one-way tickets to Paris. And, and that's how we started. We had a few suitcases, 3 kids, a little bit of money, and one-way tickets to France.
But I think on that point, like saying that we didn't have this huge runway, I think a lot of people get hung up in sort of all these details. It's sort of like that question of when is the perfect moment to have kids. And you could get so bogged down with all of the details and all the reasons why it would be better to wait until all these things lined up. Sometimes that works out for some people. And sometimes I think it's a decision and a willingness to just say, okay, let's do this. And I think we had a shared sense of, well, I don't know, like
a risk tolerance,
a shared, sense of what we wanted and what we were willing to put on the line. And maybe I had a bit more of that. I think I was pushing. I'm like, we could do this. I know if we're really we put everything into it, I think we could really make something here. But I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like a willingness to go for it and like trusting that the universe will unfold how it's meant to, if it's something you really feel in your gut. And we'd been sitting with it for a while. So I think that was the biggest piece that allowed us to just make that decision. And put all the other pieces in place.
Now, a part of our work is helping families who are preparing for something like this or who have heard the bell ring and are trying to figure out how to get their own journey off the ground. And it's amazing. Like some people are really planning a year in advance for this kind of thing or more. And then others, like a family who came on one of our recent family gatherings, they got a note from their landlord that they had to be out by the end of the month. And they were like, you know what? We've been thinking about a life change for a while. So they sold all their stuff and now they live out of their suitcases. Actually, I think she just took another job in San Francisco. So they're going to go back to San Francisco after a year on the road. But it was a matter of weeks for them. For us, it was probably a few months. But it's all, I think Taryn makes a really good point that you do think that you need this long list of things that are accomplished or questions that you've answered. And actually that list is pretty short. And the main one is, do you really want this? Do you really have a high level of tolerance for risk or some appetite for risk, and a perspective that says that there aren't mistakes, that this is you're not going to make a mistake here. This is part of your life. It's going to go one way or another. It's a chapter. And can you swallow that and jump in? And if you can jump in with both feet, you've heard the bell ring, then there's nothing actually stopping you back, holding you back.
I love so many points that you're both making. And the first one around not waiting for the perfect time, because one can get so stuck in that conversation. And also, Taryn, you spoke about being a parent, a mom, and feeling that sense of knowing that like traveling is so in your heart and your blood, and feeling that stuck at home kind of with the kids energy that I think, at least in American culture, can get very much the status quo of, oh, we have kids, so we must keep our world really small and we must just like kind of stay in the home and keep everything really local, because traveling with kids is a nightmare, and traveling with kids is it's not a vacation, it's just a different location and you're having to bring all the things and whatnot. So I love this idea that you were able to just see the kind of adventure in all of it. And I hear you both talking about like listening to that bell inside of you ringing, okay, it's time, and to just kind of trust and step into that. I mean, right now, so I'm waving to you guys from Ibiza, so we're, you know, very close in our
Neighbors.
island locations. And the last 3 months or so, my husband and I have been traveling in Europe, and we kind of packed our bags. We had some certain dates and things we needed to be in certain places, but this was the first time where I've really traveled in a sense of we booked tickets, plane rides the night before or train rides the night before, like being that last minute and that free flowing. And Martin, I love what you said of, yeah, there's no wrong choices that can happen. It's all just kind of this like path that ends up unfolding and adventure and experience you get to have. That's one of the gifts that of traveling that I love so much is just that you start to learn so much about yourself. And I'm curious when you have, whether it's individuals, adults come on your trips or your family trips, what do you think are some of people's biggest takeaways when they travel and they get to have these really beautiful curated experiences that you create?
Yeah, that I would say it's a way, first, it's a way of traveling that puts you in touch with a different side of a place. Like you just mentioned, I don't know what kind of travels were more usual for you or more regular for you before, but there is this kind of travel as like a list of things to accomplish, a list of things to see, list of things to eat maybe. And um, for us, we really, and for families who join us, it those lists really get set aside. And instead, what happens is there's a space that we create with the program that's really connected deeply with local people and with local experiences, and it helps you feel like you understand a place in a different way and like you understand life there in a different way. And that for us was always the goal. Like we leave a lot on the table in terms of like the monuments you're supposed to see or the museums you're supposed to hit or whatever, but we really know what it feels like to have a coffee in Istanbul at the local, in the local plaza. And and for I think people who travel with us, that's one of the things that changes for them is this meaning, the meaning of what it means to go to a new place and to experience something. It's more like absorbing a feeling as opposed to ticking it off of a list. We're not big list takers. We're more like we just want to feel it.
Mm.
And then I think also like for a lot of people who come on our trips, this is they're dipping their toe in the water of something of this long travel or major change as an idea that maybe is about travel, but maybe is about something else in their life. And this is a sort of supported way to test that or to try it or experience it with a little bit of scaffolding. And then once you get out there in the world and you're dipping your toe in, you realize the water is actually pretty great, and in you jump. And so a lot of the families that have come on our trips experience some like big changes in their lives, and they go home. And I just sent a message to one family who's like they sold their house and they're in a camper touring around the United States and have been doing that for the last 8 months, and they're loving it, and they'll go back and go back to some version of their other life probably at some point. But just this idea that you can do the things that you really want to do, that we watch that change for people. And I think that can happen in a lot of ways. Um, but it's definitely something that happens when you like step outside of your comfort zone and jump in um and allow whatever experience is there to come to you instead of trying to control all of it.
Mm. I think another thing which you did kind of touch on, but connecting to other people and other places in a way that is like I guess it's, yeah, as we're not ticking boxes, we're really just slowing things down a bit. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't have moments that are fast, but it's like a slower, more connected way to travel. And I think it's not just about travel, but it's about connecting to what's around you. And I think that's something that people really feel on our trips, because often we're in a new group of people, we're in a new environment. And I think being able to detach from like your day-to-day grind, whatever it is, and really slow things down, people have this time to reflect about the things they want. And a lot of the families end up going back and making these big changes in their life. So it's like, I think that's what is so special about travel for us, is that you're able to step away from that sort of the daily grind, all the things that are keeping your mind busy, to be able to step away from that, put yourself in a new environment. And I think often in the case of our travel experiences, we found that people are feeling really inspired by the group that they're with, or someone else in the group, or someone that they've met through one of these experiences that we're doing. And that really sparks something. I think they often come knowing they're ready for this shift, but when you slow it down and you really like kind of dive into these connections, it produces some real magic for people that we've seen over and over again. And it's really one of the biggest reasons that we've continued doing what we're doing, because it's, yeah, watching that is such a cool thing, watching that unfold for people.
Have you ever experienced somebody having a really hard time traveling because the cultural shock was just kind of too much for them? And if so, how did you hold space for them in that instance?
That's an interesting question. Do you recall anyone on any of our trips who was like overwhelmed? I think there's,
Well,
yeah,
I'm sure I'm just trying to think of like a great example of like, from a cultural perspective, someone
yeah.
feeling overwhelmed. But
In walking around Essaouira and Aqua
yeah,
at
that's a good one.
1 in the morning with his kids trying to find their apartment
Yeah,
and
yeah.
saying,
Yeah, I think yeah, we did this last year, a 5-month caravan. So we took groups of families with us for 5 months in different locations each month. The first month was in Morocco. So that, yeah, that's a place that some people I think would say it has a lot of energy to it. It feels quite different. Um, yeah, it's not like landing in the middle of like a European city that feels quite familiar. One of the families that came, yeah, they had like a kind of a tricky arrival scenario, and just, there's cats everywhere. Like it's just, maybe it's not as clean and polished as what he's used to, or as what they were used to. And I think his first impression was like, get me out of here, like what is going on? And I know that there probably are many more examples of that if we start thinking about it.
yeah,
But also, I would say people feeling overwhelmed by like, maybe the energy of a group or of a particular, you know, situation on the trip, to not just culturally, but also just on a human level, you know. And sometimes, we have these trips that are a month long. For sure, there have been scenarios where there were feelings of maybe tension or just overwhelm from a group perspective that we felt. And I think one thing that's really important for us, like, is allowing people to have their own time and space. So from a trip design perspective, we never expect people to show up for everything and only go at our pace. We like always allow families and people, I guess, just to have the time that they need. Everybody has their own rhythms. That's even for our family too, and trying to just be mindful of people needing to go at their own pace sometimes. And that's way more important than showing up for, any specific thing. Just to really like lean into your own personal or your family's rhythm. And that's always something that we've tried design for. When we design a trip, we design with that in mind, and we're always prepared for people to step out if and when they need to. Our own kids need that. We need that sometimes too. It's a bit trickier for us if we're leading a trip and we're hosts, but I think nobody wins if you're pushing against a situation that just feels too overwhelming or tough. And then obviously communication, and like we've had lots of these scenarios where it's like, hey, let's just go grab a coffee and like chat about what's going on. And often when you just sit down and take that time, and sometimes people just need to talk through things. And so that's worked really well. I think just being there and being available for people to share what they're feeling.
I think time and expectations are two things that are very different depending on how you're approaching your travels. And for a lot of people, they're kind of confined to this super tight timeline. They have very high expectations for their 6 days in France, and there's like a lot on the line, and you can't waste a minute, and there's a lot of pressure on that. And for us, a lot of our trips are much longer than that. Even when we do shorter trips, we try to just remove that pressure and just allow things to take shape, and allow a month is long enough to get sick and then get better again. It's long enough for kids to fight with each other and then get over it and become better friends afterwards. It's long enough to get annoyed with something about somebody and then to work through that. It's there's something nice about taking that pressure off of like, guys, these are our 6 days of holiday. We get this quarter or this half, and we got to make every moment, and we can't we got to push. It's nice to, and I think when you're encountering a new culture, giving yourself that space is really, really great. In the example of our friend Finn and his towing his kids around the old city in Morocco in the middle of the night trying to find their apartment, and just cursing and swearing that they were leaving in the morning and going back to Ireland. Now Morocco is one of their favorite places. I don't know if it's one of Finn's favorite places, but definitely the rest of the family adores it and is like champing to go back. You just need time. You just need time to find it funny, time to not take it so seriously, time to recover and find something special about it, time to get to know one of those cats in the street so that they're not annoying and pesky. They're sweet cats. I'd say that.
I love how you guys are describing travel of really the spacious experience. It's more like an immersed experience, more of it being present. It sounds like with the land, with the locals, with the flavors, with the textures that you're surrounded by versus, hey, I landed in Morocco, I landed in Paris. Here are, Google's top 10 places to eat and see and do. And what you were mentioning earlier, this box checking that a lot of people tend to travel by versus letting their intuition kind of guide them, or letting the structure hold them too tightly. And it sounds like there's just a lot of spaciousness that you allow for individuals and also as families, and just kind of as like an entity that you're navigating. I'm curious, how is it raising children abroad while like building a business? And I'm assuming, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but with no family. How do you stay centered or practice staying centered in that role?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we don't have, I mean, my mom is here now, but I think this is the second time since we've been on our full-time travels. This is the second time she's joined up with us. We've gone home, but for the most part, we don't have family around, and more often than not, we don't have, I would say our community is the one that's come to join up with us on our travels. So that often has meant we are solo with the kids. Gosh, I think one of our biggest answers when we're really feeling it, whatever it is, the pressure, the stress, all the time together, is getting outside in nature. Honestly, hey, when we're having our biggest struggles, it's like, okay, if we could just get everyone to get their shoes on and we can get outside for a hike, more often than not, a swim is like the thing that really turns it all around for us. And because we love water so much, I was thinking about this the other day, like so much of our travels, most of our travels have been near water. And I guess we just, even if we're not really thinking about that, we are designing that way because we love to be near the water, going for a run near the water, going for a swim. Having access to that is really sort of a clear the slate kind of a situation for our family. I think having time to yourself is really important, and we probably haven't done enough of that, honestly. It's only been recently, I guess, I've started taking some more time away. Or we've tried to be more thoughtful, like you take the kids or I'll take the kids. Everybody needs time on their own. And I think that has been a challenge, not having your community. Now on our month-long trips, I think building our own community together happens pretty quickly. And I think the kids are excited to hang out 24/7 pretty much. The adults, I think, need a bit more space and are happy to sort of trade off with those responsibilities. And that's something we've seen quite a lot of, like date nights and those kinds of things. So it is nice when we're in a scenario where we have other people around for a month, because that's long enough to build some trust, and you're building community and you can share the responsibilities a lot. And I think that's kind of the ideal, actually, because you're still traveling, you're experiencing something new. You can have spontaneity, which is a big piece of travel, but also have like those elements of a community in place that help you to step away for a moment and share some of the responsibilities. We have had a fair bit of that, I would say, even though we don't have family per se, like living down the street or, nearby.
That's one of the most consistent challenges for people who travel for a long period of time, is how do I have a sense of community far away from my friends and far away from my family? And it's one thing for adults, but it's a totally different thing for the kids. Or maybe not, it's the same thing, it's just amplified. And the kids, and a lot of people, I think, when they're planning a long voyage, this is this is a surprise to them. And they book out, a year of travel, hopping from here to here to here to here to here. And then they get 3 months into it, and the kids are like, all they want is some friends. They don't want to go to another castle. They just want some friends. And for us, we've been in this amazing position of building our own community with our work, with our trips that we invite other families on. But we also started this whole project with the express goal of finding families to connect with in the places that we travel to. And our theory was that would be the best way to understand a new place. It would be the best way to get the resources that we need for the ages of our kids. It would be the best way to skip the Google's top 10 list, which is a terrible way to plan your trip, and to find what actually feels real in this place and feels important in this place. And so we've proactively reached out to families that in places around the world where we're traveling, to try to become their friends, or try to meet them, or try to have them make a suggestion or help us understand their place. And that's meant that we have developed community all over the world. And not only have we collected it around where we are, we've also stepped into it in new places. And that's been easier to do some places than others. But it's been absolutely what has made such a long voyage possible, because without that, there's the nucleus of your family, and that's wonderful, but also you could start to grate on each other, and none of us are fully complete with just that. We need more than that. And so that's developing that has been a big part of the project.
I love those reminders. And I just want to thank you both for being expanders of like what's possible, because I think, especially in American culture, we can get very stuck in like, this is what a family looks like, and this is what life needs to look like, and this is what jobs need to look like, but to recognize that you can have creativity and be in possibility, and that you can create community across the world. And not to say that's not difficult to not have, your blood family right by your side when you need them, but to remind ourselves that we are all human. And even if we're not, like, to feel that sense of connection globally between families, like family in one place is very similar to family in another place. And to learn how, you can create what family means to you also. So thank you. I appreciate it deeply as I'm exploring, and my husband and I are exploring, what family means to us one day, and what place and home means, and how you also don't have to stop traveling once you have kids.
For sure, you don't have to stop. I would say that is we feel very strongly about that at any age.
Yeah.
So if anyone tells you you have to wait till the kids are a certain age to gain something from travel or for it to make sense, we disagree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no wrong age, and there's
No.
it changes it and it enriches it. And I mean, Morocco is a great example. Take a baby to Morocco, and you're a different kind of person to everyone who lives there. You're a parent and a brother or a sister, and as opposed to just a solitary person. It's just like it changes it for you, and it plants something in the kids, and yeah, the world is a big, big place, and it's accessible. You can go find it.
Yeah, I love that reminder. Guys, where can people learn more about Cartier Collective and all of the amazing trips you have done in the past and also have planned for the future?
Yeah, we're pretty active on our Instagram channel. So it's Cartier Collective, and it's spelled a little funny. We were joking earlier that it's a pretty good filter. You have to really want to find us to be able to spell the name of our company. So it's a Quartier Collective, and cartiercollective.com, and Instagram Cartier Collective. You can find us there. Yeah, we share a lot about. I mean, I was looking there the other day, and we were quite intentional when we set out on this journey with our Instagram channel, and it tells a pretty cool story. Like, if we just scroll back, I mean, it's 7 years of story about a family traveling this way, and it wasn't so common 7 years ago. The pandemic changed a lot of things, opened a lot of doors for many people who are less tethered than they were, or more willing to shake things up than they were. And it's just it's a cool story to be able to. It's a cool record for me.
Not just travel, but I think trying new things,
Yeah.
like you said, like being open to change and new ideas. And we often have these like self-limiting ideas about what we can do or where we should be or what it needs to look like. And I hope we continue to push ourselves and remind ourselves, because we are always reminding ourselves that actually we could do something new. Like, we don't have to be, it doesn't have to look like this one thing, let's try something new. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. So yeah, that as well.
Well, you've named so many important mindsets to hold as one travels, whether they're single or in a family. So thank you for sharing those, and thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Thanks, Wade.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Centered in the City podcast. Join Cartier and I on Instagram to talk about your biggest takeaways, what trips you're most excited to plan, your favorite aspects of traveling, or even what scares you or makes you nervous or anxious about traveling. And if you haven't yet signed up to be on the wait list for my upcoming book, 100 Mindful Moments to Balance and Energize, I welcome you to sign up in the link in the show notes. Be the first to know when the book is ready to be ordered, as well as get all of the amazing freebies and bonuses that will come along. We also have our next free Mindful Moment meetup on April 29th. So join us for a midday mindful moment to pause and care for yourself in community with a bunch of like-minded people, all of us practicing taking care of ourselves so that we can show up for our families, our friends, for the world. Learn more how to sign up in the show notes. As always, thank you for letting me be in your ears, your heart, and your mind. What an honor and a gift it is to share these conversations with you all. Until next time, stay centered.